A 14-year-old boy named Jake notices a Good Guy doll, which is a brand name. He asks the vendor for the price, and she replies that it's $20 since it's a vintage item. However, Jake manages to negotiate and buys it for $10. As Jake leaves with the doll, the vendor notices that a knife is missing from her stall. Jake starts listening to a crime podcast hosted by his classmate Devin, who is the son of Hackensack police detective Kim Evans. The podcast mentions that people have always believed saints watch over Hackensack, yet crime continues to rise. The last time the murder rate was this high was in 1965, when serial killer Charles Lee Ray was on the loose. Jake takes the doll home and places it on the table. His cat, however, seems frightened by it. As Jake is about to remove the doll's head to use for his sculpture, his father, Lucas, walks in. Jake asks for his opinion on the sculpture, but Lucas dismisses it, saying he's not an art critic. He tells Jake to stop wasting time on art, make friends, and find a girlfriend because sculptures won't earn him any money. Lucas also informs Jake that he couldn't afford to send him to the art camp because it cost $1,000. He further tells him that he is becoming just like his mother, but unlike him, she didn't try to make a living from it. He even says that Jake is starting to look like her. He then tells Jake to get ready because his cousin is coming over for dinner. That evening, Jake's cousin Junior arrives with his parents, Logan and Bree. Logan proudly talks about how Junior qualified for a regional running competition and how he needs 3 extracurricular activities to get into Harvard. Jake and Junior get into an argument when Junior mentions organizing a book drive for homeless people. Jake responds by saying that books aren't what homeless people truly need. Bree tries to change the subject by asking Jake about his sculptures. Jake says he's working on them, but Junior mocks him again, calling him gay when he quotes Andy Warhol. Lucas yells at them to stop, saying that Jake just doesn't know what he's doing. After everyone leaves, Lucas angrily smashes Jake's sculptures while Jake begs him to stop. The next morning, Jake finds his cat dead. The doll is still there, so he searches online to sell it. To his surprise, he finds someone selling the same doll for $1,500. He decides to take the doll, Chucky, with him to school. On the bus, some students bully Jake. He sits next to Devin, who is reading a crime magazine. When Jake arrives at school, someone asks him to introduce them to his cousin, Junior. Junior soon arrives with his girlfriend, Lexi. Lexi compliments Chucky, but when Jake tells her he's planning to sell it, she mocks him, saying his financial situation must be so bad that he has to sell his belongings. She even offers to help by donating money. In class, their teacher, Ms. F, assigns them the task of dissecting a frog. Jake is visibly scared and panicked, but Ms. F encourages him. He tries to calm himself down, but when he looks at the frog again, he is horrified to see it brutally dissected. Ms. F comes over to check and is surprised, telling him that he didn't need to do it that way. Suddenly, the entire class bursts into laughter as they check their phones. Lexi has created a GoFundMe page to humiliate Jake. After class, Jake asks Ms. F if she can keep Chucky in her locker, since his is too small. She agrees and then stops Lexi to talk to her. She warns Lexi to stop bullying Jake, mentioning the fundraiser she made to mock him. Lexi pretends she didn't do anything wrong and insists that she was only trying to help Jake. She also boasts about being the mayor's daughter. Ms. F leaves to call the principal, Miss McVeigh. As soon as she leaves, Lexi suddenly feels something strange. When she turns around, Chucky is standing there. She gets scared. When Miss McVeigh arrives with Ms. F, Lexi quickly agrees to delete the page and leaves in fear. Ms. F then puts Chucky in her locker and leaves. Later, Jake is listening to Devin's podcast when Devin arrives and asks what he's watching. Jake lies, saying he's watching The Vampire Diaries. Devin responds that Jake doesn't seem like the type and encourages him to stand up to his bullies. He also admits that he knows Jake was actually watching his podcast and invites him to the school talent show happening the next day. At home, Jake receives a message from someone interested in buying Chucky. However, as soon as he shares his number, a person named Andy warns him to stay away from the doll and to check if it has batteries inside. Jake goes to talk to Lucas, who hands him Chucky. Jake is surprised and asks how he found it, explaining that he's trying to sell the doll. Jake goes to his room and researches the doll's history. He learns about Charles Lee Ray, the serial killer, and the pattern of murders linked to kids who own Chucky. He checks inside the doll and there are no batteries, which means that it was speaking without batteries. He throws the doll in the trash. At the talent show, Devin finishes playing the piano and Lexi takes over as the host. She praises Devin but then starts mocking Jake, saying she should tell Devin's parents what's really going on between them. Suddenly, Chucky speaks, telling Lexi to pick on someone her own size. The entire audience is shocked. Jake rushes to the stage and Chucky holds up Lexi's phone, revealing that she has not only several pictures of Junior, but also of Oliver. He laughs, saying that was supposed to be a secret. Then, turning to Bree in the crowd, he says, "We all have secrets, don't we?" Chucky then starts reading Lexi's search history, exposing her looking up Botox and other strange topics. Both of them are quickly taken off the stage. When Jake gets home, Lucas confronts him, angry that he embarrassed him at the talent show. Lucas tells Jake to stop acting weird, but Jake fires back, saying that Lucas doesn't hate him for being weird, he hates him because he thinks he's gay. Lucas punches Jake and warns him never to talk like that again before ordering him to go to his room. Suddenly, the power goes out. As Lucas tries to fix the electricity, Chucky appears and spills a large amount of water near his feet. This triggers an electric shock, and Lucas dies from electrocution. Detective Kim, Devin's mother, arrives and consoles Jake. She informs him that there was a break-in at school last night, and the only thing stolen was his doll, Chucky. Jake, surprised, tells her that he took Chucky himself because he needed it for the talent show. Logan arrives soon after and comforts Jake. He tells him that from now on, he will live with them and should feel free to ask if he needs anything. Detective Kim rules the case for now as death by misadventure. Bree shows Jake to his new room and then questions him about what he meant when he said she had a secret. Jake quickly responds that he was just joking. As soon as Bree leaves, Jake tries talking to Chucky and then throws him in frustration. But suddenly Chucky sits up and starts speaking. Terrified, Jake asks if he is really Charles Lee Ray and if he killed his father. Chucky casually replies that Lucas deserved to die. Jake insists that his father wasn't always like that, but Chucky shrugs it off, saying Lucas had it coming. Then, with a sinister smile, he adds that now it's Lexi's turn. A young Charles Lee Ray is shown hiding a blade inside an apple on purpose. He then takes a bite, enjoying the sight of his own mouth bleeding. Meanwhile, Jake is in the car with Junior, who tries to bully him. However, Junior's parents step in and stop him. When they arrive at school, Jake becomes the center of gossip. Oliver approaches him, expresses his condolences for Jake's father's death, and invites him to a Halloween party at his house. Junior and Lexi notice Oliver being kind to Jake and find it suspicious. Lexi, still upset with Jake for making fun of her, reacts angrily. At home, Junior's housemaid, Annie, is cleaning. She finds a knife in Jake's room and takes it back to the kitchen. As she places it among the other knives, Chucky suddenly pushes her from behind. She falls onto the knives, which pierce straight through her neck. Later, Jake and Junior return from school. Jake asks Junior if he wants something to eat, but Junior rudely replies that he doesn't need to ask for things in his own house. Jake is the first to notice Annie's lifeless body, and then Junior sees her too. They immediately call their parents as well as detectives Kim and Sean. After analyzing the scene, Logan and Bree explain that Annie had been with their family for a long time and was like a member of the household. Detective Kim asks about Jake and Junior's relationship with her, and they explain that Annie raised Junior since childhood. She also had no issues with Jake and welcomed him warmly. After examining the situation, detectives Kim and Sean conclude that Annie accidentally slipped and fell onto the knife rack. They even mention a similar case, saying such incidents happen more often than people think. Later, Jake goes to his room and confronts Chucky, asking why he killed Annie. Chucky denies killing Annie, insisting that she slipped on her own. When Jake tries to push him, Chucky refuses to take the blame, saying that he could have killed someone in the past week but didn't, because he's trying to help Jake. He adds that some people deserve to die and claims he only kills those who do. Meanwhile, Junior overhears Bree telling Logan downstairs that Jake might be dangerous. She mentions that he didn't have a healthy upbringing, and after Mary's death, Lucas became unstable, so no one really knows what's going on inside Jake's head. Logan responds, saying that you never truly know what someone is thinking. Later, Junior enters Jake's room and sees his laptop open, displaying pictures of Lexi. He warns Jake to stay away from her. After Junior leaves, Jake confronts Chucky, asking why he did that, but Chucky punches him in the eye. Detective Kim questions Devin about Jake, asking what kind of kid he is. Devin, however, defends Jake. Meanwhile, Lexi's younger sister, Caroline, is drawing a picture of Chucky when their parents come downstairs and praise her work. They are heading to a ballroom event and tell Lexi to take Caroline trick-or-treating. When Lexi protests, they admonish her and leave. At Oliver's Halloween party, Junior arrives wearing his medals. A little later, Jake comes downstairs with a visible bruise around his eye. Logan and Bree assume it's just part of his Halloween costume. They ask Jake if he's going to the party, but he refuses, saying he needs some time alone. Jake realizes that Chucky is missing and, fearing he might kill someone, rushes to Oliver's party to find him. Meanwhile, Lexi and Junior are getting intimate. Chucky is playing a video game with Caroline when he casually tells her that he plans to kill her sister. He then gets up and sneaks into Lexi and Junior's bedroom, hiding under the bed. As Lexi and Junior lie down, Chucky prepares to stab Lexi from beneath. However, before he can strike, someone opens the door, and they both leave the room to rejoin the party. When Jake arrives at the party, some people lock him and Devin in a room as part of a game. Later, when Jake comes out, he is shocked to see Lexi dressed as his father, mimicking his electrocution. It turns out this was her surprise Halloween costume. Deeply hurt, Jake bursts into tears, demanding to know why she is doing this to him. He vows not to let her get away with it this time. Devin tries to comfort him. Jake goes back inside to find Chucky. Just before Chucky is about to kill Lexi, Jake intervenes and takes him home. Back at home, Chucky apologizes for punching Jake in the eye. He then tells Jake that the world is like the Super Bowl of killing. Kill or be killed. He insists that everyone has to choose a side and that anyone can be a killer. He tries to manipulate Jake into murdering Lexi, reminding him how she humiliated his father. Chucky begins teaching Jake how to kill, asking whether he prefers strangulation or stabbing. Jake hesitates and questions what if he is not a killer. Chucky smirks and insists that everyone is a killer if pushed far enough. Curious, Jake asks Chucky how he became a killer. Chucky recalls a childhood memory from his birthday and explains how to choose a target, someone who annoys them or makes their life difficult. Meanwhile, Detective Kim visits Mrs. F to ask questions about Jake, but she refuses to cooperate, stating that she cannot disclose any information about him. After class, as Jake is leaving, Mrs. F stops him. She tells him that if he ever needs anything or just wants to talk, he can always come to her. She also mentions that she has seen the video of Lexi bullying him and is arranging a parent-teacher meeting. Since Jake is in a hurry, he simply agrees, thanks her, and leaves. Following Chucky's advice, Jake begins stalking Lexi, studying her to find the right opportunity to kill her. One day, as she's out for a walk, he follows her with a knife. Just as he is about to strike, the person turns around, and to Jake's shock, it's actually Junior, wearing the same hoodie as Lexi. Junior calls Jake a weirdo and walks away, while Jake quickly hides the knife behind his back. Later, Junior confronts Lexi about what she did at the party, telling her that mocking his uncle like that was not okay. He insists that she should apologize to Jake. After some back and forth, Lexi finally agrees. When Lexi arrives home, she finds her little sister, Caroline, crying and protesting because she wants Chucky. Lexi then heads to Jake's house, where she finds him in the garage, testing different sharp tools. Lexi assumes Jake is testing sharp tools for his sculptures and dismisses it. As Jake stands behind her, contemplating whether to kill her, she unexpectedly apologizes. She admits that she sometimes takes things too far and shouldn't have mocked him. After apologizing, she asks Jake for a favor. She wants Chucky. Jake immediately refuses, which angers Lexi. Frustrated, she calls him a waste and storms off. Later, Jake tells Chucky about the encounter. Chucky scolds him for failing to kill Lexi and suggests that since she already wants the doll, Jake should just hand her over so Chucky can take care of the job himself. Following Chucky's advice, Jake goes to Lexi and gives her the doll. Lexi thanks him, but quickly clarifies that this doesn't mean they are friends. She then gives Chucky to Caroline, who is overjoyed. Their parents, Michelle and Nathan, are also present and join Caroline in playing with the doll. Meanwhile, Mrs. F calls Logan, Bree, Mayor Michelle, and her husband Nathan for a meeting. She emphasizes that safety is a top priority at Perry Middle School. Michelle interrupts, proudly stating that they care deeply about safety, which is why they have donated to the school's security. Mrs. F then shows them a video of Lexi bullying Jake at the Halloween party. Logan becomes furious, demanding to know how they could allow Lexi to mock his brother, Lucas. Principal McVeigh, who is also present, urges them to resolve the issue. That evening, while her parents are away, Lexi hosts a party at home. She invites Oliver, Junior, Devin, and a few others after putting Caroline to bed. Junior becomes irritated by how friendly Oliver and Lexi are with each other, especially when Oliver brings her liquor. Meanwhile, Chucky gets out of bed, glances at the sleeping Caroline, and whispers that he is going to kill her sister. Caroline wakes up and comes downstairs looking for Chucky. She asks Lexi about him, but Lexi tells her to go back to bed while she searches for the doll. A flashback from Charles Lee Ray's childhood is shown. A killer breaks into his house and murders his father, who yells for him to run. Charles's mother takes him and hides in a closet. The killer searches the house and eventually finds the closet. However, when he opens the door, he sees that Charles has already killed his own mother, proudly stating that he helped. The killer admires Charles for having the guts to do it. Back in the present, Chucky mistakes Oliver for Lexi and stabs him. Realizing his mistake, he continues to stab Oliver repeatedly, enjoying the process until Oliver dies. After killing Oliver, Chucky goes after Lexi, who is still searching for him. As he attempts to attack her, the house catches fire, leading to a massive explosion. Lexi sees Chucky and is terrified, breaking down in tears. Chucky tries to strangle her, but she manages to escape his grip. Moments later, their parents arrive and rush the injured children to the hospital. Meanwhile, Jake visits his mother's grave, apologizing for not becoming the person she had hoped he would be. At the hospital, Jake visits Lexi. She immediately confronts him, asking if he knew about Chucky all along and whether he was responsible for the maid's death. Jake silently nods. Shocked, Lexi demands to know why he would give her the doll if he knew the truth. Jake answers honestly. He wanted her to die because she had been cruel to him. Lexi is horrified by his confession and accuses him of being heartless and no better than a killer. Jake apologizes. Meanwhile, Detective Kim questions Devin about Jake, asking if he could be involved in what happened and inquiring about his doll. Devin, annoyed by his mother's accusations, defends Jake, insisting that he wasn't even at the party and would never hurt anyone. Kim then reveals that it wasn't just the fire. Oliver had been brutally stabbed multiple times. Devin immediately informs Jake, suggesting that there must have been an intruder at the party. Elsewhere, Lexi worries about her sister, but her parents blame her for everything, accusing her of not caring about Caroline's safety. As Lexi tries to explain something about Jake, they cut her off, saying she has already bullied him enough. Still angry at Jake, Lexi later confronts him about Chucky. Jake tells her that they have to handle it themselves because no one else will believe them. Determined, they decide to return to the house to check if Chucky is still alive. As they search, Jake tries to be kind to Lexi, showing concern for her well-being. However, Lexi pushes him away, saying she doesn't need his kindness, especially from someone who once wanted her dead. Meanwhile, Devin becomes intrigued by Chucky and starts researching him online. He discovers urban legends about the killer doll, its connection to Charles Lee Ray, and how Chucky has left a trail of violence and murder wherever he has been. At the same time, Logan reassures Jr. that the accident won't set him back in his athletic career, calling it just a minor setback. Back at the house, as Jake and Lexi continue searching, Chucky suddenly appears and shoves Lexi off the first floor. Just in time, Jake manages to grab her hand, preventing her from falling. As Lexi dangles from the ledge, Chucky urges Jake to let go, reminding him of how she bullied him and insisting that this is his chance to finally get rid of her. Chucky then climbs down and tries to pull Lexi down himself. However, Jake refuses to listen. He firmly tells Chucky that he is not a killer and struggles to pull Lexi back up. Chucky continues trying to drag her down, but before he can succeed, Detective Sean arrives. He picks up Chucky, stating that Caroline has been asking for him. Jake and Lexi try to stop Sean, warning him about the doll, but he ignores them. After thanking Jake for saving her, Lexi follows Sean, determined to keep an eye on Chucky. Meanwhile, Jake is taken in for questioning by Detective Kim. Sean takes Chucky to the hospital, but stops for a drink before heading to Caroline's room. Once there, he places the doll beside Caroline and begins eating some biscuits. Suddenly, Chucky stabs him in the back. As Sean collapses, Chucky repeatedly attacks him with syringes, stabbing him over and over again. Meanwhile, Devin finds Lexi and shares everything he has discovered about Charles Lee Ray. He explains that Ray was known as the Lakeshore Strangler and that after his parents' deaths, he was sent to a foster home before eventually transferring his soul into a good guy doll. Lexi responds that she and Jake already know this, and that Chucky has already started killing people. A flashback from Charles Lee Ray's childhood shows him in a foster home. The other children loved him because he entertained them with his storytelling. However, one day, a janitor scolded Charles for disrupting his work. In response, Charles murdered him and led the other kids to see the body, treating it as an adventure. While most of the children ran away in fear, one boy stayed. Impressed by his courage, Charles later gifted him a severed hand as a token of friendship. Back in the present, Jake is questioned by Detective Kim. She directly asks if he killed Oliver out of revenge for being bullied at the party. Jake denies any involvement. Kim points out that all evidence seems to lead back to him and his doll, which has now been found at multiple crime scenes. Jake hesitates, about to reveal the truth about Chucky, when suddenly an emergency alarm blares through the hospital. The nurses rush to check on Caroline, only to discover Detective Sean's mutilated body in her room. A flashback shows young Charles Lee Ray observing a blonde woman attempting to get intimately close to a man. The man, visibly frustrated, pushes her away and leaves. Charles approaches the woman, flirts with her, and she quickly becomes interested in him. They invite another woman, Tiffany, to join them. Later in the bedroom, Charles pulls out a knife and prepares to kill Tiffany. The blonde woman panics and tries to stop him, but to her surprise, Tiffany is actually excited and eager to be killed. Intrigued by her reaction, Charles shifts his attention. Instead of killing Tiffany, he stabs the blonde woman and then allows Tiffany to join in, letting her stab the victim as well. They both revel in the moment, bonding over the act. Back in the present, Caroline wakes up and asks Nathan for Chucky. Nathan hesitates, telling her that the doll looks awful after being burned in the fire. However, Caroline insists, so he retrieves Chucky for her. The moment she sees its damaged, charred face, she becomes frightened. Nathan disposes of the doll in the trash. Lexi arrives and asks about the doll. Nathan informs her that he threw it away. Lexi immediately tells Jake and Devin. They assume that Chucky might have been buried under the collected trash, possibly killing him. Despite Lexi finding it disgusting, they search through the disposal site but fail to find the doll. The next day, Mrs. F advises them that if they ever feel overwhelmed or need to talk, they can confide in her. Later, Jake, Lexi, and Devin discuss Chucky's possible whereabouts. They conclude that he likely hasn't left Hackensack, as it's his hometown. To track him down, they need to figure out who his next target might be. They consider telling Junior, but Lexi dismisses the idea, saying he wouldn't believe them because he lacks imagination. Junior notices them whispering and tries to join the conversation by casually asking if they have visited the new theme park. They all reply that they haven't. Before he can ask further, Mrs. F returns, and they all take their seats. Meanwhile, Nathan brings Caroline a brand new doll named Tommy. Caroline begins playing with it. Lexi, suspicious, picks up the doll and tries to make it talk, but it remains silent. Seeing nothing unusual, she returns it to Caroline and leaves. Chucky watches Caroline playing with the new doll. He sneaks into the room and performs a ritual, transferring his soul into Tommy. A short while later, Nathan enters the room and notices the burnt Chucky doll still lying nearby. Without giving it much thought, he picks it up and throws it into the trash can. Later, Lexi, Devin, and Jake retrieve the burnt Chucky doll from the trash can and destroy it by repeatedly stomping on it until it's completely shattered. Believing they have finally gotten rid of him, they cheer and celebrate, convinced that Chucky is gone for good. Meanwhile, Mayor Michelle holds a press conference to reassure the public. As the event begins, Junior joins Lexi, Devin, and Jake and asks what they are discussing. Lexi blurts out the whole truth in one breath, that a killer doll has been murdering people and that they are trying to stop it. Junior accuses her of making up ridiculous stories and tells her that if she doesn't want to be honest, she shouldn't bother talking at all. At the conference, Mayor Michelle assures the public that Hackensack remains one of the safest cities in the world and that the recent murders were isolated incidents that won't happen again. However, just as she finishes speaking, Detective Kim steps forward to give a briefing when suddenly a decapitated head rolls onto the stage, shocking the audience. As the curtains pull back, the rest of the mutilated body is revealed. It is Principal McVeigh of Perry Middle School. Jake, Lexi, and Devin, who are sitting in the crowd, are horrified. They immediately realize that Chucky is still alive. Meanwhile, Junior breaks up with Lexi, angrily accusing her of not caring about him anymore and never being there for him. Elsewhere, Tiffany Valentine, who has transferred her soul into the famous actress Jennifer Tilly, is in a hotel room with Nika Pierce. The two appear to be getting intimate, but there is also a man tied up to a chair nearby. Tiffany briefly leaves to grab something, and at that moment, Nika suddenly snaps back to reality and regains control of her body. She looks around in confusion, trying to figure out where she is. Acting quickly, she removes the gag from the man's mouth and explains that Chucky murdered her entire family and framed her for the crimes, leading to her being committed to a psychiatric hospital. She further reveals that Chucky has split his soul into multiple dolls, but also left a fragment inside her. Because of this, she constantly switches between being herself and becoming Chucky. However, whenever she is Nika, her legs remain paralyzed. She hurriedly begins untying the man, but before they can escape, Tiffany returns. Nika suddenly stands up, indicating that Chucky has taken over again. With a sinister smile, she slits the man's throat and coldly tells him that let's keep this Nika nonsense between us. Andy, Barkley, and Kyle arrive at a house and knock on the door. A man answers, and they introduce themselves as representatives from the U.S. Census. The man tells them to come back later as they are in the middle of dinner. Kyle insists that it won't take long and that they just need to ensure everyone in the household is counted. The man hesitates but eventually lets them inside. Once seated, they begin asking about the number of family members living there. Andy, growing impatient, shifts his attention to the young girl in the house and asks her to bring her toys. Her parents look at him with confusion, but Kyle quickly reassures them that it's just a way to make the child feel comfortable. Kyle wants to handle the situation cautiously, but Andy becomes restless and begins asking unusual questions. He pointedly asks if the little girl has suffered any serious injuries recently and whether she owns any other dolls she hasn't shown them yet. The girl then brings out another doll, one from the good guy line. Andy and Kyle stare at it suspiciously. Suddenly, the doll springs to life and speaks on its own. Both Andy and Kyle immediately open fire, shooting the doll repeatedly. They quickly leave the house, driving away. In the car, they reflect on what just happened. Kyle expresses concern that the little girl will be traumatized for life, but Andy reassures her that at least she will be safe now. Meanwhile, Detective Kim arrests Mrs. F on suspicion of being connected to the recent murders. Despite Devin and Lexi defending her, their efforts fail to convince the authorities. Later, Lexi tells Devin and Jake that Chucky is still alive and has transferred his soul into the new Tommy doll, which has now disappeared. At the same time, Bree visits her therapist, Dr. Amanda, who who urges her to tell her family the truth that she has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Bree finally opens up to her husband Logan, who embraces her with tears in his eyes. Later, she prepares to tell Junior. Unable to handle the conversation, Logan leaves the room. Bree gently reassures Junior, telling him that he doesn't need to worry, that no matter what happens, she will always be his mother, and they will fight this together. Jake is eavesdropping on the conversation. Hearing Bree's revelation, he feels deeply sad. Tiffany is packing a bag when Chucky, still in Nika's body, approaches her and teasingly places a foot on her briefcase. Annoyed, Tiffany grabs a knife and slashes his foot. The pain is so intense that it forces Nika's real personality to resurface. Trying to cover it up, Nika pretends to still be Chucky and sits down to play cards with Tiffany. As they play, Tiffany deliberately brings up old memories, testing Nika's ability to keep up. When Nika hesitates, Tiffany smirks and reveals that she has always known when it's really Nika. To Nika's surprise, Tiffany admits that she actually likes it that way, having both Chucky and Nika in one body. Before Nika can react, Tiffany suddenly grabs a frying pan and knocks her out. Meanwhile, Jake and Devin search for Andy Barkley's number online. Devin discovers that Andy's babysitter was one of Chucky's first victims, and that Andy has since dedicated his life to hunting down and eliminating good guy dolls. When they finally get through to him, Andy warns them that Chucky is coming for them, and they need to be ready. He also assures them that he is on his way to help. At the same time, Bree arrives at her therapist's office while Junior waits in the car. Before leaving, she turns to him and tells him that she loves him very much. During her session, she admits that she doesn't want to continue her treatment. Instead of prolonging her suffering, she wants to live the rest of her days happily. Life is unpredictable. She argues that she could get hit by a bus at any moment, so she doesn't see the point in making herself miserable trying to fight it. After the session, she pauses by a large window in the building, looking down at the street below. Suddenly, Chucky appears and pushes her out. She plummets to the ground, landing on a car right in front of Junior. Her death is ruled a self-harm act. Dr. Amanda tells the family that Bree only wanted them to be happy, so she sacrificed herself. Logan, however, reacts coldly, calling her a quitter who ran away from life instead of facing it. As Dr. Amanda leaves, she advises them to reach out if they ever need help. Once Logan is gone, Jake tells Junior that he doesn't believe Bree's death is a suicide. Junior snaps at him, accusing him of bringing death and chaos wherever he goes. Later, Devin researches ways to kill Chucky when his mother, Detective Kim, walks in and sits beside him. Sensing something is on his mind, she gently asks about Jake and whether being around him gives him butterflies. Devin hesitates, then nods. Kim reassures him that it's okay and that she supports him no matter what. Devin then continues watching a video on ghost hunting techniques, where a person uses metallic thread to trap spirits. This gives him an idea. That night, Jake, Lexi, and Devin set up a trap using metallic thread, tying it across doors and windows to prevent Chucky from escaping. As they search for him, the electricity suddenly goes out. Lexi, alone in an upstairs room, suddenly feels a presence behind her. She turns to see Chucky standing there, grinning. He taunts her, saying he has been waiting so long to kill her, and now he finally has his chance. Before attacking, he offers her a deal that he will spare her life if she kills Jake. Hearing Jake approaching, Lexi pretends to consider the offer, keeping Chucky distracted. Jake lunges at Chucky, but Chucky reacts swiftly, slashing Jake's leg with his knife before fleeing downstairs. Devin chases after him. Just then, Detective Kim arrives home and rushes inside. She runs up the stairs to check on Devin, but Chucky shoves her down. She falls violently, breaking her neck upon impact. Devin, frozen in shock, watches as his mother lies lifeless at the bottom of the stairs. A funeral takes place. Lexi and Jake offer their condolences. Lexi's mother expresses her sympathy, but then quietly says she has a meeting downtown and needs to leave. Lexi and Nathan are shocked by her insensitivity. Devin announces that he will be living with his aunt now. Meanwhile, Jake wonders why Chucky is targeting their parents and what his real motive is. They also realize that Chucky tricked Detective Kim by calling her on the phone and telling that Devin was in danger. However, Devin has changed his mind. He no longer wants to go after Chucky. Jake tries to convince him, warning that they will be separated and killed one by one, but Devin no longer cares. Lexi tells them she can't help either because her family has grounded her, believing she is responsible for everything. Junior arrives and yells at Jake, blaming him for ruining everything. He claims that people started dying after Jake showed up. When Lexi defends Jake, Junior punches him in the face and storms off. Logan, Junior's father, arrives and checks if Jake is okay. Suddenly, a fancy car pulls up, and famous actress Jennifer Tilly steps out. She walks straight to Logan, hugs him, offers her condolences, and then unexpectedly kisses him. Logan stands still, looking stunned. Seeing this, Junior assumes his father was cheating on his mother. A flashback shows Charles Lee Ray and Tiffany arriving at a new house after stealing a car and killing its owner. Later, Jake visits Devin and asks what he plans to do. Devin explains that he can't stay with his aunt forever. He'll live with her for a week week before being sent to a foster home. Jake tells him he doesn't want him to leave. He even thought about running away but couldn't bear to be apart from Devin. Devin replies that they can't be together because every time he looks at Jake, he remembers his mother's death. Jake leaves. Meanwhile, Mayor Michelle holds a press conference announcing that a suspect has been caught in connection with the recent murders and that justice will be served quickly. She insists Hackensack is still safe and encourages the community to move forward. To help everyone heal, she is organizing a charity event called Frankenstein, a fun, family-friendly horror movie night. The proceeds will go to Better Days Children's Hospital, and a special guest will be giving away good guy dolls to kids. During the event, someone asks Caroline if she wants to be mayor like her mother. Caroline replies that Chucky told her to kill her mom. Shocked, Michelle immediately sends her inside. At home, Logan sits by the fireplace when Junior confronts him about the woman who kissed him. Logan says he has no idea why she did that. He then scolds Junior for punching Jake, warning that violence could get him banned from competing in sports. Junior goes to his room, where Chucky is waiting. Chucky comes to life and starts manipulating Junior, encouraging him to kill his father. He claims Logan only uses him to satisfy his obsession with sports and that he was cheating on Junior's mother. Chucky tells Junior that if he kills his father, he'll finally be free and avenge his mother. He also taunts him, saying Jake couldn't kill because he was a coward, but Junior is stronger than Jake. In Chicago, 1988, Charles Lee Ray is seen murdering someone in a house when Tiffany arrives. She is furious. Assuming he's cheating on her, after all, it's been a long time since they killed together, and he no longer pays her any attention. Charles ignores her, puts on his coat, and leaves while she keeps complaining. Meanwhile, Devin begins researching Charles Lee Ray on his own. He finds the address of Charles's childhood home and decides to go there alone. At Junior's house, Tiffany arrives and asks about his father. Junior tells her that Logan isn't home. He asks who she is. Tiffany acts surprised that Logan hasn't told him about their relationship and claims that she will be moving in soon. She then offers Junior Swedish meatballs and tells him to keep this a secret between them before leaving in her car. Andy and Kyle are driving together, joking about who is the worst driver. Andy estimates that there is only one Chucky doll left, unless Charles has created more clones. However, the bigger issue is that the last piece of Chucky's soul is inside a human. Andy tells Kyle that she shouldn't be risking her life for this, as it's his mission. Kyle disagrees, insisting that they will finish it together. As it starts raining, they stop at a gas station to refuel. Kyle gets out to pump the gas, but while she's busy, Andy gets into the driver's seat and drives away, leaving her behind. He apologizes as he speeds off, saying it's for her own good. Meanwhile, Tiffany knocks Nika unconscious by hitting her with a pan. She then puts Nika in her car trunk, takes her to their old house, ties her up, and leaves. Devin arrives at the house in search of Chucky. While looking around, he notices Nika tied up. She begs him to free her, warning that if she doesn't escape, someone will kill her. Devin unties her, but as soon as he does, Chucky's soul inside Nika takes control. She quickly overpowers Devin, ties him to a chair, and leaves him there. When Devin regains consciousness, he sees Nika, now fully possessed by Chucky, holding a knife surrounded by a room full of good guy dolls. He is terrified. Meanwhile, Jake sees a man delivering a good guy doll and asks where it is being delivered. At first, the man refuses to share the information, but after Jake offers him money, he reveals that the delivery is headed to Sherwood Lane. Lexi asks Jake about Devin, and he replies that Devin doesn't want to see him. Lexi tells him that he shouldn't abandon the people he cares about. She also admits she shouldn't have distanced herself from them the previous day. Lexi's parents, Nathan and Michelle, are out trying to repair their marriage. Their relationship has been strained due to Michelle treating her family like she runs the town, even at home. Jake confesses to Lexi that he believes everything went wrong because of the doll he bought. He feels responsible for everything that's happened, which is why he has been avoiding Devin. They search for the address where the doll was being delivered and discover that it's Charles Lee Ray's old house. Jake immediately realizes that Devin must be there. However, they still don't understand why Chucky is convincing others to kill instead of just doing it himself. Meanwhile, Logan comes home drunk and hears Junior talking to someone in his room. Inside, Chucky is telling Junior that his father must have come home drunk again. Logan enters the room and tells Junior that they need to talk. Suddenly, Chucky speaks, saying he likes being hugged. Logan, annoyed, tells Junior to turn the doll off, but Chucky keeps talking, mocking Logan by saying he's just like his twin brother, Lucas, a pathetic drunk. He calls both of them losers. Logan tells Junior to stop. Chucky then suggests that Logan was the reason Bree took her own life. Logan responds that it happened because she was a quitter. Junior punches Logan. Logan, shocked, tells Junior that his mother wouldn't approve of the person he's becoming. But Junior, now completely under Chucky's influence, punches him again. Logan stumbles and falls to the ground. Junior grabs Chucky and starts beating Logan's head with the doll while Chucky gleefully encourages him. Junior keeps attacking until Logan is dead. Exhausted, he sits down. Chucky, grinning, says that it was so hard to get just one of you to finally step up and kill. Junior then starts singing a song and Chucky joins in. Andy arrives at Junior's house looking for Chucky. He knocks on the door. From the window, Chucky spots him and tells Junior that Andy is a coward who never had the guts to be like them. Junior opens the door and asks who he is. Andy introduces himself as Jake's friend, saying that Jake called him to sell one of his Chucky dolls. Junior responds that Jake never mentioned anything about selling a doll. When Andy asks about his mother, Junior replies that she killed herself. Andy then asks about his father. Junior says he's inside. Andy steps in and follows Junior to his room, but when they enter, Logan is nowhere to be found. Junior insists that his dad was just there. He must have gone out with his girlfriend. Andy grows suspicious and starts searching the room, even checking Junior's closet and the bathroom tub, but he finds nothing. Before leaving, Andy tells Junior to let Jake know he stopped by. As soon as Andy is gone, Chucky emerges from the toilet and smirks, saying that he knew he wouldn't check here. Meanwhile, Lexi and Jake are still trying to figure out why Chucky is manipulating people into killing instead of doing it himself. There must be a bigger reason behind it. Lexi asks Jake where the doll he brought from the bus station is. Jake says it's in the kitchen. When they turn to look, the doll is standing there holding a knife. Just as it's about to attack, Kyle bursts in and shoots it multiple times. Kyle introduces herself, explaining that Andy sent her and that she's his girlfriend. Jake and Lexi tell her that their friend Devin is in danger and ask how many Chucky dolls exist. Kyle replies that there are a lot of them, and that getting rid of them will take a lot of work and caffeine. Chucky takes Junior to his house. Meanwhile, Tiffany is about to inject Nika with a syringe when Chucky walks in. Seeing a part of his soul killed makes him furious. He attacks Tiffany, reminding her how many times he has killed her before. Tiffany begs for her life, saying his plan won't work without her. Suddenly, Nika switches to her Chucky persona and tells him to stop. Chucky backs off and greets Nika's Chucky. He asks where the rest of their allies are. Nika's Chucky grins and reveals that the entire good guy doll army is here, and they are all alive. Chucky is pleased, saying that it means his plan has worked. He then orders the dolls to be loaded onto a truck. He introduces Junior to the rest of the group and tells him that he is going to kill Devin next. Junior hesitates, asking if he really has to kill Devin. Chucky turns his attention back to Nika's Chucky, ignoring Tiffany completely. Annoyed, Tiffany interrupts, but Chucky dismisses her and continues his conversation with Nika's Chucky. Tiffany becomes angry with Chucky and expresses her frustration about how a real man should treat a woman. At the same time, Nika suddenly collapses, and her true personality starts to show. Chucky realizes that part of Nika's real self is still there, so he decides to get rid of her. He tells Tiffany to do it, but she refuses. She explains that she likes having Nika around because when Chucky is not there, Nika reminds her of him. Chucky doesn't care and reminds her that there are many other versions of him. Tiffany still doesn't want to do it, so Chucky orders Junior to kill Nika instead. But before Junior can act, Tiffany suddenly attacks Chucky and slashes his throat. She is fed up with his arrogance and controlling nature. She then reveals a shocking truth, that she was the one who told the police about Chucky in Chicago. The night he walked out on her after she complained that they no longer killed together, she called the police and gave them information about the Lakeshore Strangler. After that, she gives Junior a rope to tie up Nika and warns him that Chucky wouldn't have helped him if the police had found his father's body. Then, she leaves with Junior, who takes one of the Chucky dolls. Before going, she sets a bomb at the front door that will explode if someone opens it. Inside the house, Chucky's severed head gives an order to his body to kill Devin. As the body starts moving, Andy sneaks in through the back door and destroys it. Soon after, Jake arrives and sees what has happened. Kyle, who was warned by Jake and Lexi, suddenly enters the house and calls Andy's name. Andy realizes that the front door is about to explode and desperately tries to stop her. But before he can do anything, Kyle opens the door and the whole house blows up. Kyle had secretly drugged Jake and Lexi to prevent them from following her and getting into danger. The next morning, they wake up and realize what had happened. When Lexi checks her phone, she is shocked and tells Jake to look at the news. They see that Charles Lee Ray's house was destroyed in an explosion. Jake suddenly remembers that Devin was there and panics. They presume him as dead. Lexi hugs him, trying to comfort him. Jake then goes to Devin's house where he looks through Devin's things. Just then, Devin arrives. Jake, relieved, tells him that he thought he was dead. Devin explains that he managed to escape, but Andy and Kyle were still inside when the explosion happened. He also reveals that Junior had killed his own father and was now working with Chucky. He warns Jake that if Chucky convinces someone to be like him, it allows him to create more killers and build another army. Meanwhile, Mayor Michelle starts a charity event called Frankenstein. She invites Jennifer on stage, who is holding a doll. Caroline, seeing the doll, demands it, and Jennifer hands it over to her. Michelle then announces that 72 good guy dolls will be donated to the children at Better Days Hospital from their special guest, therapist, Jennifer Tilly. A truck full of dolls is shown. Later, during movie night at the theater, Junior arrives and calls for Lexi. She follows him inside and he leads her to an empty corner. There, he tries to convince her to join him in killing people. When she refuses, Chucky orders Junior to kill her. Lexi pleads with Junior not to listen, but Junior insists that Chucky has shown him what it means to be a man. Lexi tries to remind Junior of who he really is. She tells him that he is not a monster, he is the same kind, loyal, and loving person she once cared for. He does not have to turn into someone cruel. As Chucky urges Junior to attack Lexi, Junior suddenly turns against Chucky instead, stabbing him in the chest. However, Chucky also stabs Junior in return. Junior collapses, and Lexi catches him in her arms, begging him not to die. With his last breath, Junior apologizes for everything he has done before passing away. At the same time, Chucky, who is sitting next to Caroline, whispers to her that he is about to start killing people. As the movie plays, Nathan takes a seat next to Michelle. Suddenly, Chucky stabs him from under the chair. Blood drips from his mouth onto the popcorn, which Michelle unknowingly eats. Realizing something is wrong, she looks beside her and screams in horror. Panic spreads as people start running and Chucky begins attacking everyone in sight, stabbing without discrimination. Jake arrives to confront Chucky. The two fight, and Chucky mocks Jake, telling him that being a hero is useless because no one will believe him. He claims that once everything is over, people will remember him as the mastermind behind it all, and Hackensack will be known as the starting point of his invasion. Chucky gains the upper hand and taunts Jake, mocking him for being weak and making fun of being gay. Jake fights back with all his strength, strangling Chucky until his eyes bulge. As the fight ends, Lexi arrives and tearfully tells them about Junior's death. Meanwhile, Tiffany orders the truck driver to get to the theater on time. However, before she can reach it, Andy manages to hijack the truck and drive away with all the dolls, leaving Tiffany screaming in rage. Jake, Lexi, and Devin watch as Andy escapes with the truck. Inside the truck, a Tiffany doll speaks from behind and threatens Andy, warning him to drive where she wants or she will shoot him. The next day, Jake, Lexi, and Devin visit the graves of those who were murdered. They discuss whether they should tell Mrs. F about everything that happened. As they talk, she stands silently behind them, listening, but in the end, they decide to keep the truth to themselves. Meanwhile, Tiffany takes drastic action to prevent Chucky from using Nika's body again. She cuts off both of Nika's legs. When Nika sees what has been done to her, she screams in horror. The series ends with Chucky giving a chilling summary of all his killings, describing how he carried out each one and insisting that every victim deserved their fate.